Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Holly, thanks ever so much.
Yes.
Apologies for the delay. This is the first time we've ever done a live stream.
As you can tell.
It's currently 1 a.m. in the UK. So if you are in the UK, then you're very...
Wow.
You're up late with us. So we hope you enjoy it. Let me just take this off. So this is a live Q&A session. What we wanted to do was share with you all the journey that we had on the Camino Frances, and just ask any questions that you may feel if you're planning to go to the Camino. Things like, what did you pack in your bag? What do you wish you hadn't packed in your bag? What were the albergues like? Whatever. We just wanted to get your questions. So please feel free to fire away underneath. So drop your questions on. While we're waiting for some of those to come through, Louise, I know your Instagram family had come through, haven't they?
Yeah.
So should we kick off with one of the questions from Instagram?
Yeah, we can do. So we've had quite a few questions on Instagram. I went out a couple of days ago and said, has anybody got any questions for our live Q&A? So these are in no particular order. But we have a question from Rhiannon. What's one thing you wish you'd known at the start before you started the Camino?
How painful blisters were.
Yeah.
I think that's, Okay, what's yours?
That would be my answer, actually. I think I probably underestimated how much I would struggle with blisters. I kind of knew that it was a thing, but I hadn't thought it through. So I wish I'd known, and then I think I might have done a few things differently beforehand in terms of getting my feet up and ready and making sure that my shoes were even more worn in than they actually were.
Yeah.
That would be mine.
Okay. I'm going to keep in mind with regards to the blisters, because I think in addition to that, I think it's about the management of the blisters. Looking after your feet. I think Louise had said it in one of the previous videos. If your feet are okay, everything else is okay. You can walk the Camino. It's absolutely fine. So we went down the route, didn't we, Lou, of bursting them with a sterile needle.
Yes,
from a pharmacia.
We didn't at first. That wasn't what we'd sort of heard. Oh, you should never pop a blister. But then I had 6, I think, really bad blisters, and we bumped into an Aussie fellow who had also really bad blisters, and he'd spoken to a GP on the Camino, and they'd said, pop them if you can with a sterile needle and dress them with iodine, and so we did. And as soon as we started doing that, it was a game changer for blisters. Yeah, it made a big difference. That did.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would work for everybody, but it certainly was what worked for me.
Certainly, and also we had iodine as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, we bought some iodine gel from a pharmacy, and that
that worked well.
Yeah.
Kept things clean. The last thing you want to do is get an infected blister.
Yeah.
Or infected feet. So,
yeah.
Okay. So that's one of our biggest. What would we wish?
Definitely.
Okay, yeah. Okay, what else are they asking?
What was your training like before doing the trip?
Louise and I, Henry and Megan, are all in reasonably good health.
Yes.
Physical health. So I think we naively thought that we would be good to go and just to get going on the Camino. Would you agree? Yeah,
I think so. I think we're, like you say, we're all reasonably physically able. Megan especially, she does quite a lot of, so Megan's quite fit, which is probably one of the things that helped her. But yeah, I think, we thought we'd just sort of crack on and get on with it. And we did, and it was fine. In fairness, it was all right.
I think one of the best things we ever did actually was to do the 8 kilometres to Refuge Orison.
Yeah.
So we left Saint-Jean Pied-de-Port and went to Refuge Orison, and that was our first stop. So we did 8 kilometres on the first day, and that was to allow us to sort of settle in and make sure that we didn't scare the children too much on the walk up into the Pyrenees. So we would highly recommend doing that if your time scale allows it. Ours did. So we did it that way.
That was a really good call for us. Yeah, definitely. And if you're new to big long walks, or you're walking with children, or anything like that, it probably is worth splitting that first day into the two. We met a lot of people who were splitting it, and we met plenty of people who were just doing it in one day. So it can be done. Definitely. But it definitely meant that we didn't kind of break the kids on the first day and have them going, oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard. They finished the first day going, oh, this is going to be really easy. But that meant that they approached the second day with quite a lot of motivation, which maybe they wouldn't have done otherwise. So
Okay. All right. So go on, people who are online, let's hear your comments. Ask your questions, please don't be shy.
Please
we'll
do.
take any question that you feel that you
ask
want
us
to ask
anything.
us.
So, but I've got a few more from Instagram anyway.
Okay.
What will you miss the most about this trip when you get back to reality? Ooh.
Everything.
And here we are back in reality.
So we've been back home now for
about a week.
Yeah, just over a week now.
It's nearly 2 weeks since we actually walked into Santiago, but we had a few days rest in Porto first.
Yeah. I would say I miss the community.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, it's missing the other pilgrims, the talking to other people, understanding their journeys and their stories. I would say that is the thing I miss most.
Yeah.
That's for me.
I think the community, definitely. I think that would be my first choice. But since you've gone for that, I would say after the community, it would actually be the walking, which I can't believe I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there were some times towards the beginning where I didn't think I'd be able to finish, and I didn't think I'd ever walk for pleasure ever again. But actually now, I miss getting up and getting out in the fresh air and being out in the fresh air for several hours a day. Yeah. I really miss that.
Yeah. And I spoke to Henry earlier, and Henry's gone back to his school network, and he has also said that if we were to start the Camino again tomorrow, he would come with us. It was that special to him. So,
which is really interesting.
Yeah. Especially from a 15-year-old.
Yeah, especially from a 15-year-old.
Very nice.
Anne, amazing question. What was your favourite accommodation? Ooh.
You go first.
So we mixed it up. So we stayed in a mixture of hostels, municipals, and also then we would treat ourselves to a private room in a hostel or a hotel.
Or an Airbnb.
Or we had a couple of Airbnbs. So can I go for two?
That's a question you need to ask Anne.
And I hope it's okay if I go for two. So one of each. So in terms of municipals, probably Bercianos, actually. And I might be saying that because I've only recently been looking at that video and going back to it and thinking, oh, that was amazing. But we stayed in the municipal in Bercianos, and it was just on the outside of the village. And it didn't look much. It kind of looked like an old leisure centre. It sort of looked a bit grim. But actually, the service and the facilities and everything was super clean, and you start to really appreciate super clean. The showers were brilliant, which is another thing that you appreciate.
And it was after a really long walk during the Meseta, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. It was a really tough walk that Henry had kind of struggled with, and it was a lot of long, hard miles in 30+ degree heat, and it was like an oasis at the end. And the lady there was so lovely. She didn't speak much English at all, but we still managed to communicate. It was just a really nice, really clean, really well-serviced place.
So that's your municipal.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second one.
We stayed in a couple of Airbnbs to give ourselves a rest day treat. One was in Leon, and I think that was amazing. That was lovely. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. Go on then.
Okay.
It's so hard. There were so many really good ones.
There were. The Camino Frances is very well set up for the pilgrims, so you will not have an issue. I would say mine was I think it was Hostels.
Ooh, yeah.
There was a hostel that we stayed in.
Yeah.
Around day 7, day 8, I can't remember now. But we got in, and it was the one where we had 2 separate rooms. The kids had twin room.
Yeah.
And we had that double room and a private shower, and I can remember getting into that shower and thinking to myself, "This is 5-star luxury."
It felt like it.
It felt like 5-star luxury. So I would say that was my favourite one. From a municipal point of view, if we can keep with that theme, I would say it was Roncesvalles.
Oh yes, yeah.
So the second night when we went into Roncesvalles, the volunteers were amazing.
Yeah.
It was so clean. It was really well set up. The bunk beds were in sets of 4. It did shock me a little bit when they switched the lights on at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, nobody warns you about that at that one.
And we thought then that was going to be like it for the whole Camino, that the lights would be switched on at 6 o'clock.
But they're not. That was a one-off.
So it's just in Roncesvalles. Don't panic.
Yeah.
You're staying in Roncesvalles, and
the lights come on at 6 o'clock, and you're like, "Oh, okay.
Oh God, I have to
we're
find
off."
a rucksack.
You did have to be out by 8, I think, in that one. It was like an early, like everyone get out,
which is fine.
Yeah,
it was. But that was a beautiful one and a very beautiful walk on the way out.
In fairness, we didn't have a bad experience in accommodation at all, did we?
No.
We had, there were some that weren't as good as others, but we didn't. There wasn't one where I thought, "Oh, I'd never ever stay there again."
No. And the other thing as well that I think, if we're talking on albergues and where we're staying, I did have a thought that maybe like the shower rooms and the bathrooms and things like that might be a little bit open or shared, so shared showers and things like that. And I was a little bit concerned more so for Henry.
Yeah.
If he was going to have to share
and Megan
an open shower and stuff, but they never were. They were all individual. They were all private, and that was really good and really satisfying. That was a theme right throughout.
In fairness, I think we went in half expecting. I think we sort of went in with a mindset of we're only going to be able to shower every 2 or 3 days. There won't be the facilities. And actually, as Megan pointed out to me the other day, we didn't. There wasn't a single time that we didn't have a shower. There was never a time. It was always fine. Yeah. Now, actually, somebody else has asked a question about the accommodation while we're on albergues.
Okay.
How often did you need to book albergues in advance, and how easy was it to do? Which is a good question. Thank you, Penny.
I'm going to leave this one to Louise, because Louise was the master booker.
I was in charge of booking albergues. So there were probably 2 or 3 nights where we didn't book. So we didn't book. We booked Refuge Orison because we knew it was small and that you had to book that one in advance. We didn't book Roncesvalles because you couldn't. And there were a couple of other places through the Camino where we didn't book, and it was turn up on the day. They were always the big ones with the lots of beds. So they're like 70, 90 sort of beds. And on those days, it's a case of you need to kind of get there by 2 usually, or they'll give away, you won't get in. So like Pamplona, for example, we got there at like 12 and they just opened the doors and we were in, and that was fine. So because we're a family, I didn't want for us to get stuck without accommodation. So we tended to book. And I tended to book a day in advance. So I would always have tomorrow nights booked. A lot of them, actually, I did on booking.com, which I did not expect. But an awful lot of the hostels and even some of the municipals are actually on booking.com. And so most of the time it wasn't a problem. I'm just trying to think. The only other time that I booked slightly further ahead was once we started to get closer to Sarria and the last 100k. That somebody had said to me, "Oh, it's really busy," and so that made me a bit nervous, and I started to book all of that up. So we had the last 5 nights, I think we had booked probably 3 or 4 or 5 days before we actually got there. But normally I'd sit there the night before, have a look at the next town where we thought we'd arrive roughly, and then I'd book something. It worked all right, didn't it?
It worked really well.
We got some really nice places. I think we had a slight advantage because we were travelling as a family and because we were 4. Quite a lot of places have a room for 4 or a room for 6 or a room for 5, and they would say to me, "Oh, if you're a family, you can sort of have the extra bed and have that room as a private room." So we had more private rooms, I think, than most people would get.
But brilliant all the way through.
Yeah. Like I said, we didn't have a bad experience.
No, not at all. And not a single bed bug in sight.
No. You hear a lot about bed bugs, and we were well prepared with our bed bug spray and our sleeping bag things, sleeping bag liners.
Yeah.
And no, we didn't experience it all felt very clean. I don't know if it's a COVID thing as well. Yes, we are live now. Hello. So I don't know if it was a COVID thing and they'd sort of implemented a lot more hygiene because there was a lot of plastic wrappers on beds and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's new through COVID, but either way, everything was very clean.
Yeah, and don't get put off by the plastic wrappers.
Oh no,
on the beds. They were not uncomfortable. A little bit warmer because it was a heat wave while we were there in some areas. So you did feel a little bit warmer. But if you do take a sleeping bag liner, which doesn't take much up in your rucksack, then that gives you a layer as well. So. Okay.
Oh, good question. Silk or cotton liners? I've heard a lot of people say silk liners are the best. We didn't have silk liners because I hadn't passed that information on to Mark when Mark purchased them. So we had cotton mummy liners. I think they're nylon cotton.
Yeah.
They were fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were absolutely fine.
Yeah, they were nylon cotton mix, and it was a very similar texture to the silk. So yeah, it worked really well for us.
Yeah,
and there were blankets and stuff needed when needed. So a lot of our walk, because we were walking end of May, beginning of June, or all of June this year. We were walking through the heat wave, so most of the time it was just so hot. Anyway, the sleeping bag liners were perfect. The last 5 days it got quite cold though, didn't it? When we were in sort of Galicia. Yeah.
It was actually quite cold at night, so we had the woolen blankets you could borrow from the albergues.
The other thing as well that we did, me predominantly on this one, was actually always kept my fleece at the end of the bed. So I'd hang my fleece at the end of the bed, so if I woke up during the night cold, I can just grab my fleece and pop it on the top of my body, and that way it can be a bit warmer.
I think we were all quite fastidious about using our sleeping bag liners properly at the beginning because we were a bit nervous about bed bugs and cleanliness and things like that. Yeah. As the walk went on and we settled into it, we were a lot less bothered, and I think most of us were actually using them to sleep underneath.
Yeah, totally.
Just while we're still on our albergues, there was another question which I thought was a good one. Oops, I've lost it. Hang on. So Sophia asked, do I have to carry shampoo and soap with me, or is it available at the hostels?
Should I...
Yeah, and I'll chip in.
The reason why I laugh is because we did get to one albergue and we had no soap.
Oh, yeah, that was our fault.
We ran out of soap. So the general rule of thumb is that no, there isn't any soap or shampoo or anything in the showers. You might be lucky and somebody may have left something behind, but general rule of thumb is take your soap. We also took shampoo bars rather than actually the bottles. We found them to be much easier to use. So what we would do is we would put a sandwich seal bag and put the soap into each one of those. But we would go in, we would use them, and then we would let them dry out during the evening, and then drop them into the bag in the morning when they're dry, and then actually it saves a lot of mess. But to share a little story with you, we got to an albergue and we had no soap, and it was a Sunday, so none of the supermarkets were open, so we literally could not buy soap. And Louise went down to go and wash the socks, and while she was there was a little bar of soap
for sock washing.
There
was more. There were a few little bits of soap. So
it was body soap.
Yeah.
It wasn't clothes soap.
Yeah.
And I did ask her to steal that little piece of soap so that I could go and have a shower. So my apologies to anybody in that albergue that had lost their soap, but I think it was washing soap.
It wasn't the finest moment on the Camino, but Mark's right. Most places don't provide shampoo or soap. Occasionally you go into an albergue and they've got like a pump dispenser in the shower, and you think, yay, I can use something else. But we did have the little plastic bags. And then what I would do, so that the plastic bag didn't end up all soggy and wet inside, is that I'd leave the soap on top of the bag, let it dry out for half an hour, and then pop it in. And then it never got all manky.
Yeah.
So that's soap and shampoo. Definitely hard shampoo, solid shampoo was really sensible thing to have.
Yeah, totally.
And did you have much of a problem with language as a barrier to being understood? Gosh, that's a good question, Mark. Did you have a problem?
And they understood me the whole time. I think that there was. I speak absolutely no Spanish at all, and we got there with that in my lack of knowledge. I quickly learned the basic stuff. So, café con leche, hola, cuatro café con leche, por favor, and I can order 4 coffees. I think the basic stuff, get that learned, but really they were absolutely amazing. The Spanish is so good.
Yeah. A lot of people, we didn't come across many people who didn't speak some English, and we tried our best. I'd been trying to learn a few words on Duolingo, and I'm still continuing to try and learn that. Although someone did point out to me that that's like Latin American Spanish and not Spanish, mainland Spain Spanish. But I'd learned a bit and I kind of got by. I was able to ring a albergue and just about ask for 4 beds and work it through. The kids actually have both said that they picked up more Spanish there than they do in Spanish lessons at school. So that was kind of nice to hear.
Yeah.
We did have one really funny day where we ran out of toilet paper in our private room in the albergue, and we went to try and find some. We went to try and find some toilet paper, and we found a lady who was, I think, cleaning, or she was busy. She was a very busy lady doing things, and she didn't speak any English. And so we did have quite an amusing hand signals conversation with her to try and show her what we needed. But we got there in the end, and people were lovely. People were so lovely. I don't think we had a bad experience with people
at all. And actually, there was a lot of amusement around trying to explain the more delicate things that you needed.
Yeah.
So just going forward, I think toilette papel
it was. Yeah.
Papel.
Yeah.
If you need toilet paper, and don't do the hand movements that I did, because that just confused her.
But in fairness, she was as amused as we were. But yeah, and we used Google Translate quite a lot when we got stuck, which was really helpful. And the kids, that was actually a nice thing for the kids to get involved in, was pulling out. Megan did a lot of Google Translate and what does it mean, and on menus and things. So we got by. I would like to have spoken more Spanish, to be honest, but we got by fine.
Don't panic.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
So Judy asks, what type of footwear we're using?
So I had Merrells, and they were trail shoes. So none of us had hiking boots. We made the decision as a family not to wear the hiking boots, and the reason behind that is that especially we were walking during the warmer period. We weren't walking during the wet period. I think we may have changed our view if we were walking through rain, which we weren't, so we were very lucky. So I had trail boots, Merrell
shoes. Same with me. We all had trail shoes, which is sort of halfway between the trainer. My understanding is they're halfway between the trainer and the boot.
Yeah.
So you and I both had Merrells. Megan had High-Techs. Megan's were the cheapest.
Yeah.
So Megan's were a £40 pair of High-Techs, which were on sale. And then she had some good arch inner soles in.
Yeah.
And she had no blisters and no foot pain. So that worked really well for her.
Yeah.
We had Merrells. We had loads of blisters.
Yeah. And I think Henry had Mammoths, I think the brand is, which was similar trail shoe. I think if I was to walk it now, again, I'll be honest, I would probably wear something more like a Solomon shoe, which is a bit more like a running trail shoe rather than a slightly heavier walking trail shoe. There were some areas that needed a lot of concentration going down or going up, and you know, if you need that ankle support, be really cautious of that. You know, but by taking your time, you know, you can get away. I strongly believe with probably a running trail shoe, and we saw a lot of people in trainers.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the time of year that you're going if you're doing it. If I was doing it again at sort of May, June, July, August, and I knew it was going to be hot and it was unlikely to rain, I would maybe even consider a really, really comfy pair of trainers.
Yeah, I would.
Because you want the light weight.
Yeah. And get the light weight.
And also big. Big, slightly on the big side, not on the tight side.
Yeah. And just to add to that, actually, probably I think I would know, and I think you would, is get the toe socks. So get the toe socks, and then put a pair of socks on the top. So you've got 2 layers going, hence the bigger shoe. So buy a bigger shoe, 2 layers of socks. Now, that's always one up for debate. When you go on the Camino, or if you have been on the Camino, you'll know this, you know, blisters and what footwear you wear, or what socks you've got. So have you got, was it merino wool?
Oh, so many and so much advice. It's really mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
And everybody's doing something different, and everybody will tell you something different.
Yeah. And somebody will tell you this is the best way to do it. I haven't had any blisters. Yeah, but that's our advice. I think that's what we would do for next time.
I think it's really important to be flexible with your plans for your feet. So be ready to purchase different things. I mean, I started off, my blisters were really bad, and there was a lot of compede and a lot of problems. And then I started wearing 2 pairs of merino wool socks, which sort of gave my feet this like big spongy cover, which was fine for a while. And then I started getting foot pain and found that actually it was too cramped in my shoe. So then I ended up going back down to 1 sock. And I think flexibility and being willing to try different scenarios until you find what works for your feet is something that I learned. Don't just take the advice. Just, you know, is it hurting me? How am I feeling? That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is, just remember, if you are practicing your walking or your hiking before you go, just remember it's very probable that you're not going to be doing 20, 25, 30k every day during your practice walking. So your feet will react differently. So go with the best intentions of what's best for you, and then consider changing as you're walking the Camino.
There's a lot of shops.
Loads.
There's most of the bigger towns have got proper walking shops for pilgrims.
Yeah.
So you're never that far. You're never more than a day or 2 from a decent shop. So you can always change.
Yeah.
But we looked for toe socks for the last few days and never managed to find any. But definitely, I think toe socks would have worked quite well for me.
Astorga, I think there was a shop, but unfortunately it was closed.
The trouble is, we were always leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning and then arriving. So everything's shut when we were leaving, and then we would always come in mid-afternoon when everything's shut down for siesta. So that was something. So we've had another couple of questions. What topic? Overall, was there more countryside than town walking? I'd say more countryside.
That's a really good question. I would say there's more countryside. Yeah, there is, especially the first part of the Camino Frances, before you hit Sarria.
Yeah.
So before you hit Sarria, which is around the 115 kilometers before you get to Santiago, Sarria town or city, there's a lot of country walking. It's just beautiful, absolutely stunning. But if you get John Briley's book, it will detail where the towns are, so you can plan your day really well. So definitely a lot more country walking than town walking.
Yeah, and there are regular villages most days and regular towns. But I would say far more countryside, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning.
Beautiful,
and also, I would say don't be afraid of the meseta. The meseta. We heard a lot about, it's really hard. The section in between Leon and Burgos and Leon. It was really hard. Lots of people catch the bus. It's very dry. There's not many fountains. it's really beautiful and it's really peaceful. It is hard.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid of that. It's partly it was the bit that I was most worried about walking, and it was probably my favourite part of the walk, maybe because of the peace, and it was beautiful.
There's a lot
big
of
open skies.
Yeah, there's a lot of runs of trees. Okay.
Yeah. So by toe socks we mean where your toes, they go between your toes, like gloves.
They're like gloves.
Gloves for feet.
Gloves for your toes.
So one of the problems I had is I have funny little toes. I think it's from wearing bad shoes as a younger woman. And I think I've squashed my toes together, and so my little toes are sort of squishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had problems with blisters between my toes, and it became quite important for me to separate my toes out so they weren't all just kind of rubbing against each other. So that's why I wish we'd had like sock liner toes.
And I would go for it now as well.
Or at least try it and see how they work, because we never got to do that. On average, how much would you plan on spending per day? I assume you mean money-wise.
Ooh.
That's a
really good question.
Yeah.
One that we tried to budget for before we left.
We under-budgeted.
Yeah.
By a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
How much do you reckon we spent a day? 100 on...
So if we can just sort of break this down for you, we would spend, so the cheapest albergue for the four of us was around €48. So it's €12 each.
Yeah.
And then...
there are cheaper albergues.
Yeah.
We were not in the cheapest. I think I heard of people staying in sort of €6 beds.
Yeah.
But the average was 8, 10, €12.
Yeah.
Occasionally 15.
Yeah. So if you budget for €12 a night, I think you're sitting about correctly, because some of the quieter towns you will be paying the €12. Then you've got averagely about €12 again for a pilgrim's meal. So for a bed and a meal, you're looking at €24 per person.
So pilgrim's meal, if you're not aware, is like a 3-course dinner, and you get you get a starter, main, a small pudding. You usually get bread on the table and a bottle of wine or a carafe of wine and some water. So it's a decent,
really
and
good.
Often the starter is this massive.
Yeah.
Like a full main course.
So quite often you'll get like pasta to start with. You get salad options and things, but pasta generally, and then there's a lot of chicken and chips.
Or pork and chips, chicken and chips.
Yeah. So
that was averaging 12 to €15 per person.
Yeah, so you're looking at around €24 just to eat the evening meal and also sleep. And then during the walk itself, the cafe con leches are actually really decently priced.
You're paying on average €1.50 for a coffee.
Yeah.
And that's good coffee.
Very good coffee.
Yeah. I mean, here in the UK, we're paying twice as much for that for coffee that's not as good. So the coffee was really cheap.
Yeah. And, if you've got the room in your backpack, then the supermarkets are right throughout. So, diving in supermarkets and getting snacks like apples and bananas and things like that, just to eat along the way. That would save a bit of cash.
Yeah, we ended up spending more than we thought we were going to, mainly because we were feeding a 15-year-old boy who was walking 20 to 30 kilometres a day.
He would not stop eating.
No, he would have 2 or 3 breakfasts and still want a full lunch and then a full dinner.
Yeah, he would eat hamburger and chips for lunch, and then he would eat a 3-course meal in the evening. So we spent a lot of money on feeding my 15-year-old.
We could have done it a lot cheaper than we did.
Yeah. But what we did find as well, actually, because there was 4 of us, so if you're travelling as a family, because there were 4 of us, staying in an Airbnb or staying in a hostel actually worked out sometimes just a few euros more. Yeah. So it's well worth investigating if there's 4 of you to have a look at, the Airbnb options and stuff, especially if you're having a rest day. That way, then you've got your kitchen and we
a
did
washing
that.
machine
And a washing machine,
Maybe.
Yeah, and so you save a bit of cash through that, because a washing machine and tumble dryer, you're looking at around €10 to €12 to do one load of washing and then dry it. So if you've got that in your Airbnb, you're obviously saving that €10 to €12, and then you've got a bit more comfort. So
definitely worth it for a rest day. And also, I think I know of pilgrims who were on their own, who were walking on their own, who teamed up with other people, and like 4 of them would then go and stay, because we got into an Airbnb for sort of 35-40 euros for a night sometimes, and actually that can work out quite a lot cheaper if you're able to do that. So that's available to you as well. Right, Dennis. Oh, thank you, Dennis. How many hours did you hike each day?
Well, Refuge Horizon was a nice quick day, to be fair, because it's 8 kilometres.
We left St Jean-Pierre-de-Port quite early, I think maybe like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we were at Orison by about 10:30. Oh, this is amazing.
We love this. We have heard of people doing this very similar thing, and then sitting in the bar at Refuge Horizon with a pint of beer at 10:30 in the morning, just because there's nothing else to do. So make sure you take a book with you if you're going to do that. Seriously, if you're going to do Refuge Horizon, leave later in the morning. There's plenty of time to get there. There's no rush to get there. It's a nice spot to sit, though, in fairness, and watch people go past. So it's amazing.
It was lovely.
5 to 6 hours, would you say?
Yeah. So we tended to leave. We're kind of early starters because the kids seem to cope better with an early start and then walking a certain distance to breakfast and then carry on. So. The latest we started once, I think, was around 8 o'clock, and that was much too late for us.
Yeah.
On average, I think we probably left about 6:30.
Yeah, about
6:30, 6:45 was our average walking out the door, and then on average, I would say we were quite often there by 1.
Yeah.
Occasionally on some of the really big long days, or there were a few days where we just went, we're not in a rush. Let's have a coffee at every single village we stop at.
Yeah.
And then we get in at 2-3 in the afternoon. But we did have a lot of afternoon time on our hands, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I think you've got to judge the weather. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Oh, a big thing because we were walking in the heat wave. Yeah. The temperature was getting up to 34, 35 degrees in the afternoon. So we always wanted to be there by lunchtime so that we could just chill out in the afternoon and not be walking in the heat.
Yeah, so the heat would be peaking 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we always considered that the weather the following day, so what time we would be leaving in the morning.
Yeah.
And we saw some beautiful sunrises.
Oh.
Walking early in the morning, and we often left the albergues or wherever we were staying without breakfast and without coffee. We would have a drink of water or whatever, but. It would actually spur us on to get to the first village and town and sit there and have a nice little bit of breakfast and a coffee before we carried on.
Yeah,
and we loved it. I loved that first town.
I think Mark and I are both morning people anyway. We tend to be early risers. Henry, obviously not. He's a 15-year-old boy, so he's not an early riser. Megan's quite an early riser anyway. So it sort of suited us to do that, didn't it? And I loved that first hour in the morning before the sun was up. It was never dark. We never left because we took head torches. We all had a head torch and we didn't use them once because it was always light.
Yeah.
But it was the best part of the day. It was quiet. It was really peaceful. And you were walking for your coffee. So that kind of got you the motivation to do your first 5 or 6 kilometres.
And the smell.
Yeah, like a fresh morning smell. And
it was stunning.
I've got so many photos of sunrises on my phone. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay.
Any areas that you would recommend to take a bus? Yeah, like in or out of Burgos or Leon. Yeah. We took a bus.
About 10k, wasn't it?
We did a 10k bus ride.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, the place with the big long bridge.
Yeah.
Hospital.
Yeah, we did a 20-something K day, and then due to accommodation in that town, which I can't quite remember now, it was just before Hospital. There wasn't any accommodation.
There wasn't any bookable accommodation. There was ruck up on the day accommodation, but like I said earlier, we avoided that when we could, so that we didn't have to put pressure on the kids to be there by a certain time and stuff like that. Yeah,
so we jumped on the local buses, which was cheap enough. And if you are travelling in 2022, take a face mask with you.
That nearly caught us out.
Yeah, so make sure you've got a face mask in your bag, or else you can't travel. And it was we were literally on the bus for 10 minutes, if that. But it allowed us to move ourselves into a booked albergue, and we did watch a lot of people walk in that stretch, and it was very hot.
Oh, it did look tough.
So yeah, Mesita area, I think.
Yeah, and I think
keep an eye.
Going in and out of those cities, they're pretty rough walks, actually. Of all of the bits, my least favourite bits were always the walk into a city. So usually like the last 10 kilometres.
Yeah.
So Burgos is one that sticks in my head as being... Burgos was the McDonald's walk, wasn't it?
Correct.
That was a very tough walk.
Yeah.
Because you're on... I mean, it was really hot. You're on hard concrete pavements. The heat's like... Oof. It's probably lunchtime. So if I was going to catch a bus again, it probably would be to like skip that sort of 5-10k into a city.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing pleasant about those walks into cities.
There wasn't, no. Nothing more to be said about it. They weren't pleasant sometimes. So Burgos stuck in my head because we went around the airport, and we literally walked the whole of the runway without any shade.
Burgos is a funny one though, because Burgos, there's actually a really nice tree-lined riverside walk into Burgos, which we were originally aiming to do, but then the kids discovered on Apple Maps that there was a McDonald's on the outskirts of Burgos, and so we changed tack and decided to walk to the McDonald's so that they could have a McDonald's, which meant stomping through the industrial part of Burgos instead of the beautiful tree-lined part. If I was doing it again, I would skip the McDonald's. But, the kids worked so hard and they didn't moan and they got a lot out of it. So when they did say, can we have a Mackey's? We were a bit like, yeah, go on.
And it was lovely air conditioning.
And it was, it was a really hot day. So we were glad of the air conditioning.
We appreciated that.
But yeah, if I was going to catch a bus, I think it would be the bits into and out of cities. Both as you walked after time looked like you became close-knit family. It was lovely to watch. Was it a bonding family time? Oh, that's a nice question.
Thank you. That is a nice question.
Yeah.
I would do it tomorrow without a question of doubt.
With the kids, you mean?
With the kids. Yeah. I absolutely loved the conversations. So just to give a bit of context, we have 5 children between us. So I have 4 children, 23-year-old, 19-year-old, Henry, who's 15, and then a 13-year-old as well. And then we have Megan.
Yeah, I have Megan. So Megan's my daughter and she's 11. Oh, 12 now. She was 12 last week.
Yeah, she's 12. And they all had the option to come. That we gave them the option to come. The 2 oldest are working, so they couldn't come. They couldn't leave the work for so long. And my youngest just didn't interest him, and he said, "No, I'll meet you at the end." So we met him in Porto at the end. But Henry came, and from my view, I saw a great change in Henry over the 6 weeks. He really matured. His outlook in life has become different since he's got home. And we shared a lot of conversations that we would just never have done at home. And quite often I would catch Henry when he was in front of us, or even behind us, but predominantly in front of us, often catch him taking photographs of sunrises, fields, cows, artwork on the walls, and that just really warmed my heart.
Yeah, Henry took a photo of the last 100k marker stone, and I just remember thinking, yes, because when they stop and take a photo, because they're 15 and was 11, they won't necessarily say, "Oh, I'm having a great time, Mum. This is fantastic. I love it." But when you see them doing something like that, you kind of know. Yeah. But I would say the same. I spent quite a lot of time. Megan and I spent a lot of time just sort of walking along, just sort of chatting about stuff, and yeah, it was lovely bonding time, and I had some really nice conversations with Henry. Yeah. Some really nice conversations as a family. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it was not all rainbows and daisies. There were family normal gripes and moments, and little bits of bickering between the kids, and
I would say less than what there is at home.
Oh yes,
I think we gelled as a family unit. we were in a routine. We liked that routine, getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and laughter. You know, we've caught some on the camera, but a lot was just impromptu, chuckling or laughter. You know, that only the four of us will ever be able to talk about.
We have our little in jokes and things now from things from the Camino, and so one thing for us coming back has been being really mindful of the fact that the rest of the kids weren't with us, and so it can't be, you know,
shared too much.
But
yeah,
it was amazing.
Love it, absolutely love it.
I'm so glad that I was really nervous about taking them, and they both massively surprised me. And
their resilience was unbelievable.
They're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. Very proud of them.
Yeah, and actually other family units that we saw on the walk, as far as we can tell, very much the same. So we met a couple with their and Wolfie, if you're watching this, I apologise if I get your age wrong. I think he was 13, 14.
I think so.
Australian family that were doing it from, I think, Leon.
I thought they started in Burgos. They started somewhere along the way.
One of the big cities, and we walked with them, and we actually landed in Santiago on the same day, which was really nice. And very similar. They had similar stories. So I'd take a family again without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think kids can surprise you.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple more questions, mainly around food. David says, "How was
a lot of food?
How was the food generally? What was your favourite meal? Any particular recommendations?"
Did I have a particular favourite? I didn't say I had a particular favourite. I think the pilgrim meals were really good. You know, the size of the meals were amazing, and the wine. We never had a bad wine.
Yeah, there's a question about that. How important was the red wine?
Oh, massively important. Of course, massively. You know, we were walking through Rioja region. It was,
which is our favourite wine at home. We tend to choose Rioja, so we were quite excited about getting to Rioja, and we were disappointed that there weren't open vineyards everywhere we walked in Rioja, giving us free samples. There were none.
We were looking.
It was disappointing.
Every time we saw a vineyard, we were like, oh, great. But they weren't open.
The food was really good.
The food is amazing, absolutely amazing.
We ate a lot of tortilla, a lot of bread. I think that's one thing that there's a lot of bread and a lot of meat as well. I know we're not vegetarian. We sort of eat a bit of meat, but we eat a lot of vegetarian.
Yeah.
There wasn't much choice, and I knew there were a couple of ladies that I spoke to who were vegan, and they struggled a little bit. But there were places that you could go to who were advertising themselves as doing vegetarian and vegan menus. Yeah. So I think it's something that's coming through there more.
Yeah, we stayed in Albergue, which was a vegetarian, only vegetarian in their meal for the evening.
Which horrified the kids a little bit.
It did, but you know, it was
really nice.
You know, and we got all of the substance that we needed out of it. So ready for the following day. So it was. We didn't have.
No, the food was really good, and it changed. Did you think it changed in the last week? The Galician food, we started eating a lot more toast and a lot less tortilla for breakfast, and the meals were slightly different. There was a lot more fish and a lot of octopus. Yeah. Which we don't really do seafood. So, but if you're into seafood, the last sort of week of the Camino is amazing for seafood.
Onwards. Yeah, it was wonderful.
But we had lovely food. Yeah. Really nice food. Yeah. We did learn quite quickly not to eat too much at lunchtime if we hadn't finished the walk, or if we had sort of more than 5k left.
Yeah.
We did that once, and we really struggled after we'd eaten.
Yeah, we really watch your for us lunchtime meals. Henry seemed to cope with it better than we did. But if we had a big lunch because we were hungry, we would struggle
find the last bit hard.
Really struggle to walk in the afternoon. So be cautious of that.
But also we learnt quite quickly to have a substantial breakfast, didn't we? So because there's a lot of pastries, pastries eaten at first, but it was never really enough, and you'd have to have something else. Whereas when we had Spanish tortilla, there's a reason why there's tortilla in all of these pilgrim bars. Yeah. Because it's really substantial, and it keeps you going better. And then toast as well.
Yeah.
How important was the red wine for you?
It was the only reason I was doing the Camino.
That's not true. But we do like our red wine, so yeah.
Yeah. It was
lovely.
It was lovely. You know, even on the pilgrim meals, you know, for €12 for 3 courses and bread on the table, etc. for €12, the wine was really good. I think we had a meal somewhere, like a proper sit-down meal, ordered off the menu, and was it €1 for the glass? It was really.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, it was really quite cheap, and the wine was amazing. Really good quality wine. And when I looked at the receipt, and I'm 99% positive it was €1 that we paid for this glass of wine. It was beautiful. So if you enjoy your red wine, you'll enjoy the Camino.
It's served cold though in Spain.
It is, yeah.
Which is new to us. We have it at room temperature here, but
then
got used to it actually. So I like it now.
Yeah, we got used to it.
Nancy says, it's like you packed pretty efficiently. Thank you, Nancy. Thoughts on sharing your packing list? Something you wish you didn't bring? Oh.
I wish I could have changed. So I took a corkscrew. So a bottle opener, corkscrew, because you know, that came in handy to definitely take one. But I ordered a metal one, and it was solid metal, and it was actually quite heavy. I know it's only a little thing, and you're probably thinking, that's random, you know, but I'd go for a lot lightweight corkscrew bottle opener next time. So I wish I hadn't took the metal one.
I think we've gone out knowing that we didn't want our packs to be heavy and being mindful of weight. Yeah. But as you walk, you become more obsessed with weight and letting go of things, and you very quickly you ditch things that you're not using quite fast, don't you? You think, I'm going to get rid of that, even though it's only small and light, because actually it all adds up. Yeah. So do you think there's anything that I wouldn't take now? I think we packed reasonably well, actually. We took mainly, I've lost my light, there we go. We took mainly kind of sports kit, like PE kit stuff. So it was all running T-shirts and things. So I only had, I think, 3 T-shirts. Yeah. And
the stuff that we did really appreciate, and I really appreciated, was my fleece. Yeah. I lived in my fleece. You know, the mornings were a bit chilly. So fleece on, or in the night time if you did get a bit cold. Pull over fleece over your head, little zip. I love that. Love that fleece, and it's still with me now.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would take now that you didn't take?
There's anything I would take. Apart from the toe socks, no, I don't. I really don't think. You know, we also took a little like vegetable knife with us.
We bought it in Paris because we couldn't take it on the plane.
When we got there, just a little cheap. When I say cheap, it was a decent vegetable knife to cut the bread and like put jam and butter and stuff on bread, things like that, and cut ham and cheese. So we took the knife as well. You know.
Okie dokie.
Thank you, Nancy.
Would you consider without children walking in autumn, winter? Ooh, that's a good question.
I think I would, but I wouldn't do the Camino Frances.
You wouldn't?
No, because we've done it. The memory, I think, there of this one that we just went through was amazing. I think I'd like to try and keep that. I think I would like to do the Portuguese one during a different season.
I think autumn must be lovely.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to do one in autumn, actually.
Yeah, but I'd like to come out of Portugal.
Would you take the kids?
Yeah, I'd like to take the kids again.
Would you take the kids in winter?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I would as well.
I would. Yeah. The only thing I think I'd change.
They actually got really excited when the ponchos came on.
Oh, I love poncho day. I was been waiting for ages to use poncho because they're quite heavy generally. And when we got, I think it was Leon was the first time we got the poncho out.
Which is funny because a couple of us at least had said, because we hadn't used the ponchos because it had been so dry and hot. we'd said if we haven't used our ponchos by Lyon, we're going to get rid of them. And then it rained on the way into Lyon, so they saved themselves.
They did.
Yeah.
But what I would buy differently on the poncho is, and I saw them on the walk, was there was ones that actually accommodated for the backpack. So it had like a lump in the poncho which accommodated for your backpack, which kept the length of your poncho behind you the right level, so it'd go down more to your calf level. Whereas the poncho we had was just about over your body without a backpack on. So that's my learning from a poncho point of view. So yes, I would walk in the autumn winter time quite happily, considering like being more rainy. Then yeah, the other thing to consider as well actually is that when you're walking during the winter, like the Pyrenees, if you're doing the Frances, the Pyrenees, they do actually close it down. So there's certain seasons you can't go over the Pyrenees, you have to like sort of go round. So yeah, you have to be careful that you don't suddenly get taken off track too far during the coldest seasons.
Yeah, definitely. Base layers with heavy seams.
Sorry, who's asked that question?
Lance.
It's
a good question.
So if you've watched the video, obviously, Lance. So yeah, the biggest lifesaver for me was base layers without any seams in them. I made the mistake of wearing a pair that had seams, and I suffered for it. It was hot, and we all know what a human body does when we all get hot, and there was slight chafing going on. So yeah, those were disposed of quite quickly. The best things ever I bought were those undershorts, because actually I washed them in the evening, so I washed them every night, and they were really quick to dry. So
yeah,
best thing ever.
Yeah. Thank
you, Lance.
So we've got a couple more questions from Instagram, and then we might start to close it up. So unless anybody's got any more questions, do pop them in the comments now, and we'll make sure that we cover them before we finish. We had a quick question, which I thought was a really good question from Sophia. Is it out there on the roads? Are there many running dogs without owners? Because I'd heard that before we went, that was a thing, that you come across quite a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
Towards the end, there were more, actually. Generally speaking, the vast majority of the walk, I didn't see that many dogs. And when I did, they tend to be tied up in like farmyards and like that kind of, and we saw a lot of pets. But mainly they weren't running on the streets. They were tied up outside farms.
We never felt threatened by dogs.
No, there were a few more dogs the last sort of 5 days from Sarria, Galicia. I think there were a few more dogs at that point. But again, I think maybe we saw 2 or 3 stray dogs in the whole of the Camino. And no, I was a bit worried that we'd, need a stick, and I was worried for Megan mainly. But no, it wasn't ever a problem. Are you laughing at me? I'd heard somewhere you need to like scare them, not to obviously, but I'd read somewhere, there's a lot of dogs. So and somebody else has read it too because they're asking the questions.
On our experience, they're fine, absolutely fine. They generally, the ones that are off the tether, anyway, which you walk through farmyards most, isn't it? So if you walk through a farm area, you'll see a few dogs tethered up, and the ones that aren't tethered up are generally old, and then sitting in the sun. They just generally don't tend to bother you. There are signs around asking you not to feed dogs or encourage them to walk with you, which is obviously very sensible, because they will follow you and then get lost. So make sure you don't do that. But we never saw that. We never experienced it. So.
No, it was fine.
It was good.
One last question from Instagram, and then we'll just go back to the questions here, and then we'll. What was the one last question, but it's a big one from Instagram. What was the best part? This is from Lisa. What was the best part, and what would you do differently?
The best part of the Camino. I'm assuming we're talking geographically.
Well, I suppose you can answer however you want to answer.
Okay, I'm going to answer around the best part of the Camino. Was I enjoyed every single day. I loved every single day.
And I think that comes across on the videos. Mark's such a positive person, and at times during the Camino that could be frustrating because he'd be just like bouncing along and you'd be in pain and just like, I want to feel miserable. But Mark will just be so positive and kind of bounce along, so happy.
Yeah.
But that's your way, isn't it? And
I think for me,
he loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Loved every second of it. Even when my foot was hurting, I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I think the favourite bit for me that sticks in my head is Los Arcos. It wasn't the biggest of towns or offered much there, but we met up with 4 other guys that me and Henry went and joined in the evening. We had a few drinks. And we had a really good engagement with one another. And I think that's what sticks with me, is that there's many times like that we had throughout the journey, but that one sticks with me. And it was just sort of the Camino friendships that you make sticks with me. So that's, what's the best part about it? That was for me. That was... Yeah. Every day was just perfect.
I think I'd echo that actually. And, there was a period during the Camino where I was really struggling with pain and blisters. And I was probably at a week where there were quite a lot of tears. And I spent a few days thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is much harder. I can't do it. But once I got past that, I absolutely loved it. And I loved, like Mark says, the community, the people that you meet along the way. But also, I'm quite an introvert. I like my peace and quiet and spending time in my own little bubble. So, and there's a lot of that too. You get so much time when you're walking, because we didn't always walk together. We'd spread out. There were times when Megan would sort of pull back and Mark would pull forward and Henry would just disappear off miles ahead of the rest of us because he was going so fast. And you could just potter along in your own head or listening to Audible or doing whatever. There's so much quiet, peaceful time. I loved that as well as the community. I loved having time just to myself. It was amazing. What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I'm going to be honest, I just don't think I would. No. I don't think I would do anything differently to what I did. It was at our Camino. It's a great question because you want to learn by other people's probable mistakes, I wouldn't do anything differently because it was just such a wonderful journey.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think, there's little tiny things, but no. And I think everybody does a different Camino, and there's a bit of you can be a bit of a purist about it, I think, and be like, you have to walk the whole thing, and you shouldn't get a bus, or all of these things, or you shouldn't have as many rest days, or everybody does it differently, and it's your way, and everyone should just sort of stay in their own lane and do it their own way. And the way we did it worked perfectly for us because it was kind of, it just worked perfectly for us. So I wouldn't do it differently.
No, never.
But it wouldn't necessarily be the right way for somebody else, is what I'm saying. I think.
Just do what feels right for you.
Yeah. Okay, we have a few final questions in here. Oh, thank you very much. Did you stay in private rooms all the time? Janice, no, we didn't. We mixed it up. So we stayed in municipal sometimes. We stayed in private albergues in dormitories sometimes. And then we'd mix it up either with a private room in a hostel because we were travelling as a 4. Sometimes we would get a room to ourselves that would normally be for 4 different pilgrims, but we were in there, if that makes sense. And we could then shut the door. So that was quite nice. And then sometimes we booked a private room. Yeah. And I think once we had 2 private rooms. That was nice too. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
I look forward to each episode. Oh, that's lovely to know. We really love reading the comments on the episodes. It's so funny. It's weird putting yourself out there on YouTube and sort of watching yourself on video. But we've had so much support and so many nice people contact us. It's been amazing.
We love it.
We absolutely love it.
Absolutely love it.
Thank you, Judy. We've enjoyed following your journey on the Camino.
Thank you, Judy.
Nancy. Oh, thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
Loved the journey and looking forward to future adventures. I got here late. Have you mentioned next plans?
Should we share the next plan here? I think it's only right to do so.
Yeah.
So we've got immediate plans. So we were only in the UK for around 2.5, 3 weeks. So since we got back to Camino.
Little rest stop, check back on our businesses, make sure everything's okay, send the kids back into school for a couple of weeks, that sort of thing.
Make sure the dogs are okay.
And the dogs.
Yeah, I think then possibly a video is coming out.
You'll see the dogs soon.
We have Bertie and Monty. So we have a Basset Hound and we have a Spoodle, which is a Welsh Springer crossed by a Poodle.
Yeah.
They're absolutely adorable. And, when Louise posts them on Instagram, we get a lot more hits than what we do.
Yes.
And quite rightly so.
We are going to do a couple of little vlogs around back to our normal life and what kind of thing we get up to here as well. So the dogs will feature soon.
Yeah, because it's really important as well to share with the community. Actually, we're just a normal family. We're not trust fund babies. We don't have a massive pot of money in the bank.
No.
We just made a decision to change our lifestyle to actually incorporate travel and experiences.
So what's next?
Short term, very short term. We are heading over to Seville. Mm-hmm. This one is just me and Louise. We don't have the kids with us on this one because they're going off with respective parents to on holiday. So we've got 5 days to ourselves. So we're going to take you along with us on that one. So we've got a few things planned in Seville.
Seville is a bit of a bucket list item for me. I've always wanted to go. Ever since I went to Granada in Spain, I've been desperate to go to Seville. So I'm very excited about this one.
So we're heading out to there. And then we land back in the UK for about 2.5 weeks. And then we're off to Boston in the US with 3 of the children.
Yeah.
Once again, we're going to take you away on that one as well because we are thinking. Can I share this one?
Yes.
We are thinking.
But don't tell the kids. They won't watch this, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, we embarrass them.
Yeah.
We are thinking that we're planning a little RV trip around the Boston area.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump in an RV and we're going to go around the Boston area.
That's the plan at the moment.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that comes through.
And we've also got a visit to Texas booked for November.
Yes.
So that's definitely happening.
So we're heading out to Texas, for a week. Once again, me and Louise, because it was Louise's birthday present from earlier this year. So we're going to go and see the great Elton John. And have a little look around Austin, Houston, and Waco. So
we've got a bit more travel planned coming up. But we still have a lot of Camino videos to come yet.
Oh yeah. There's some of that, and then we've got St. Lucia as well that we're sharing with you that we did earlier in the year. We did that in March and did some filming in March. So we'd like to share that one with you.
It was a bit of a practice run for us. It was the first time we took the camera out. So
yeah. Let's see how that one comes out. Yeah. However, we do have something in the offing, which is a lot larger lifestyle change, but we are going to hold that one until we've got some ducks lined up. So,
we've got very exciting things afoot here.
Yeah,
really excited.
Totally. Any other questions?
Washington State. Oh wow, hello. Enjoying your Camino videos. This chat has been fun. Thank you. Oh, that's lovely.
Sorry, what's the name there? Was it Mary?
Mary.
Thank you, Mary. We met a couple actually from Washington State.
We did.
We met Chris and Danny. That was it. So yeah.
Look, sorry, I've just got distracted by the comments. So
you're going to have to read it to me. I haven't got my glasses.
Oh, okay. So Anne says, "Thank you for the live stream. I enjoyed following your journey. I'm walking in mid-September." Nancy says she's walking in mid-September too.
Are you both doing the same walk?
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to do it in September. I think that will be a really nice time of year to go.
A beautiful time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how amazing it is.
And so we're slightly jealous.
Yes, we are. We step off from St. John, August the 29th, Lance. What training would you suggest? Oh,
I would walk for 6 weeks, 20 to 25k a day.
Yeah. So we didn't train. Do you know, I suppose the one thing that I would do differently, and I don't think, this sounds awful. I would have struggled to fit training in. And I probably would have done better if I had trained. But the one thing I would say is I thought about 2 months worth of boot walking in I think we walked our boots in, our shoes in for about 2 months. I thought that would be enough, and it wasn't. They were not comfy on my feet. So the one thing I would suggest is, and everybody says it, make sure your shoes are well worn in, and they mean well worn in.
Yeah, literally just so close to the holes appearing. The Camino Frances is what, 500 miles? Yeah, it's a long way. But what I would say is, on reflection now, is don't be scared by it.
Oh no,
at all. Just do not be scared and do the walk the way that you want to do it. Like Louise said, if you need to get a bus for part of the journey, you need to jump in a taxi. Taxis are cheap. There's decent taxis out there, and there's plenty for you. Not walking in the middle of a desert.
No,
there's civilization.
Loads of services
throughout
and
facilities. The Camino. So just don't panic about it and listen to your body. Somebody said to us, actually, didn't they, that the first few days, especially your backpack, you will just want to throw your backpack away because it will cause you so much pain. But then after like the 4th, 5th day, you'd start to become accustomed to it, and it is really true. I think we were all the same, weren't we? We were struggling with the pain on our shoulders due to the backpack.
Our backpacks were quite heavy though, because we both had to carry our laptops, or we both chose. We didn't have to. We chose to carry our laptops. I was editing the videos in the afternoons, so I needed mine for that. Mark used his for emails and keeping up with business stuff, because we run 2 businesses at home, so we just had to stay in touch. And that made our bags heavy.
But after a while, your rucksack did actually, you felt quite comfortable putting it on your back. So be prepared for this.
I had a love-hate relationship with my rucksack.
I miss mine. They're still sat down there now. We don't want to put them away.
We haven't been able to bring ourselves to put our rucksacks or our sleeping bags away. They're still outside.
So what we say is be prepared for those first 4 or 5 days of your rucksack being quite heavy in your back and hurting your shoulders, and you just wanting to get it off. It does go.
Yeah. It's kind of the way I see it is like harder than you expect it to be, but it's also easier than you expect it to be. I think, which is how I feel about it. It is hard. It's a physical challenge. But it's also not as hard as you might think. And if you when I was having my really tough days and I didn't think I'd finish, I was just going, well, I'll walk tomorrow and see how far I get. And that got me through the pain bit. And then it got a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. I think the last thing that I'd like to say though is the awareness of the last 100k. Be really, the Camino is 500 miles long. It is, a lot of people say it's a marathon, not a sprint. We all enjoyed it. We loved it, absolutely loved every single day of it. And we relished every single day. For us as a family, we felt like the first, up until Sarria, was really where the Camino was our journey. We had a lot of time on our own because we were spread out. We had times when we were walking in groups. There was times when we were singing Neil Diamond. So Nick, if you're out there watching this, you're an inspiration. But and it kept us going. So there are times like that. The last 100 kilometres where it does get busier into Santiago because a lot of people join at Sarria. These are pilgrims as well that are doing their journey. And it's the best thing to do is actually engage and enjoy what their journeys are, and you will see them because they've all got nice shiny shoes on and they smell nice. So embrace the new pilgrims that are starting their journey in Sarria. And get to learn their stories as well and why they're doing that last 100k.
But be prepared for the fact that if you're starting earlier than that, the feel does change, the atmosphere does change in those last few days. Because it's so much busier, and there's so many more people on the trail, and it's just a change. It's not worse. It's just different. But it's worth being prepared for that, because it was a little jarring at first, I suppose. It was a bit like, oh gosh, there's all of these people and there's a lot of people singing and yeah. It's just a different atmosphere in the last 5 days. And if you've been through, especially if you've walked the Meseta and it's very, very sort of quiet and peaceful, it's quite a different. But it's different. But also the last 5 days is absolutely stunning. Like, I wouldn't miss it, because it's gorgeous. It's some of the most beautiful sceneries in the last week through Galicia and back in the mountains. And you're so glad to be back in the mountains because it's been so flat. And just big fields and big skies for so long. And then all of a sudden you're in the hills and there's all these views and farms and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely stunning. Yeah.
So Janice says she lives in the Boston area and is happy to answer our questions. Hi, Janice.
Oh, okay.
Nancy says, Waco, I knew that demo shirt meant something. Demo day, she spotted your donut.
Right, can we go to... Oh, yeah.
That's my Magnolia mug as well. So, yeah. We may well be going to Waco.
Let's look into these. Janice, let's keep in touch if we can.
Yes.
If you're on Instagram, it would be lovely if you connect with us on Instagram. So that's the best way to communicate.
Yeah, I think I recognise quite a lot of names from Instagram. But if you're not following us over on Instagram, we're everyday.journey. So do come on over there. That's mainly me and a little bit of Mark. But it's always nice to chat over on Instagram as well. We don't really do... We do sort of Facebook groups, don't we? But we don't do a Facebook page of our own.
Janice, we'd love to get some hints and tips about Boston. Nancy, we are great Chip and Joe fans over here, over the pond. Yes, my demo day t-shirt come with me on my journey. Louise, you've got the Magnolia mug.
Yes.
Which was a present from a few years ago. So Holly walked it in September 2019, just pre-COVID, and it was amazing. It's moving around. I got my Bronze Duke of Edinburgh, so I'm set for the September Star. Oh, well done, congratulations. Yes. More September people. Yeah.
God, maybe we do need to go back.
We do know actually that there's
a walk for the wine. Yes, Holly. Wine, tortilla and coffee.
Wine and food.
So we did. It was literally one village to the next. Right, where's the next coffee? What are we eating?
Yeah, how long until we eat again? We did, there's some other people that we did part of the journey and they're going back in September.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to get a good crowd out there in September.
I think it'll be a really nice time to walk. I think you're going to have an amazing time. So Dee says, unless it's important to get your Compostela or to achieve the full St. Jean de Santiago, would you admit the last 100k? That's a really good question. Yeah. I thought about that a lot because I found it really busy. Like I say, I like the quiet. So I found the last 100k really busy. But I wouldn't skip it. Like I said, the scenery is some of the best scenery of the whole walk. Yeah. So it's worth doing, but just being kind of prepared for the fact that it's going to change a bit and you're going to see a lot more faces.
Yeah. No, I would never change it either.
No.
Yeah. It was a nice walk. And Santiago's definitely, but you guys that are walking in September or coming up to it, or people that have walked it, it's interesting to understand what your views are of walking into Santiago.
Yeah.
Each one of us experienced something different.
Yeah, we all felt different about it.
Yeah. Which is quite interesting because you'd expect it to be quite a climax getting into Santiago, and it was.
For some.
Yeah, for some, but for us it was, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see what other people's views are because they really do vary. But Santiago Cathedral, amazing, beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful. Janice just followed us on Instagram. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Janice.
Lance says, thank you, make us smile. Very inspiring. Thank you. Also, one more question from Dee. I'm worried about the first St. Jean to Roncesvalles day. Is it that scary? We did it on a really unusual, scary day. If you've seen our vlog from that day, we had the 50 mile an hour plus winds.
Yeah.
That was, I think, as I understand it, that one single day, and everybody else who we spoke to who walked either the day before or the day after, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was, so we hit it on a really windy day. And with hindsight, it sort of surprises me that there wasn't some kind of don't walk it today sort of warning out.
Yeah.
But there wasn't, and we walked it, and some people did get injured, and we spoke to a few people afterwards, and they were all okay later on. But there were a few falls, and a few bruises. But generally, I think it would have been a nicer walk. It was just that one very windy day.
Yeah, and I think also as well, you just listen to your common sense.
Yeah.
For all of the walk.
Yeah, totally.
I think we felt comfortable going over the Pyrenees even in those winds. Yeah, they were bad. But I think as a family we felt okay by it. You just need to listen to what your common sense is telling you. I think you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
And Lynn's coming in late. Has left watching our videos. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you very much. It's been really, really nice to chat. It's 2:30 in the morning here now, so I think we may.
Yeah, we've got a 6:30 wake up call.
Yeah, we've got to get up in a few hours. But it's been so lovely to chat and answer some of your questions. We absolutely love talking about the Camino. Yeah. We are complete Camino bores now.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you will too if you're walking it soon.
Yeah.
So but we'll quite happily talk to you all day long about the Camino and your experiences. So please do make sure you comment or drop us a message on Instagram because we'll quite happily talk about it forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'll do is I assume we're able to kind of post this onto YouTube. So if you have come in late and you want to sort of watch it back, you should be able to. Lynn's just asked. Lynn's walking in September as well. Oh my goodness, you're all walking in September. How far ahead did you book along the way? So I went into this in a bit more detail earlier, but in a quick nutshell, Lynn, it was, generally speaking, I always had the next night booked. So I would have tonight booked and then tomorrow night booked and always stayed a day ahead. Yeah. And then for the last week from Sarria onwards, because it was so busy, I booked the whole lot. So we did that far in advance, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Cool. Make sure you subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
If you don't, I normally point down here. Somewhere.
It's always pointing in the wrong place. It's always like, it's here, but oh no, it's there.
Here somewhere. It's the little red button.
We'll get better at this.
Please just subscribe and please ask any questions on the comments because we will answer them as quickly as we can.
And any Instagram questions that we didn't get to, we'll also answer over on Instagram. And if you have any questions, please send them over to Instagram too, and we'll answer them there.
It's been great to chat. Apologies for the little bumpy start we've been in. It was our first Q&A live session.
Yeah.
So,
have a lovely evening wherever you are.
Yeah. Enjoy your evening or take care.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.